Welcome, everybody. Like I said, as you all are joining, I see a lot of familiar names and faces on the call. It's really good to see you all. Thank you all for spending your lunch hour with us. Hopefully you have a good snack or something to eat. And that's why I see some more names than faces, because you're eating lunch while multitasking. My name's Carly Almavar, and I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Acadiana, and thrilled to be here and thrilled to have Tina Bingham with us today, who many of us know, but is, I say this with real enthusiasm. We're very lucky to have her working in our community. I'm going to read her bio in a moment, but before I do, I just wanted to give a shout out also to Alex Lazard, who I see on the call as well. Alex has been working with LCG in the planning office and has helped put this session together, and also has been working with some of the grantees from LCG to help come through our nonprofit meetups every other month. So thank you to Alex. We are, at United Way, we're definitely committed through our nonprofit center work to continuing to improve all of us as nonprofits, and we do that through these meetings and through other avenues. So thank you to Alex, and thank you to Tina, and congratulations on the grant. So I'd love to really get to the show first, which is Tina, who's with us today, and I am going to I'm going to read her bio, because as I told her when I asked her to do this, I think I take for granted sometimes how awesome Tina is and how much she's done that people maybe don't always know about. And so rather than just introduce her as awesome, I'm going to introduce some of the specific wonderful things that she's done. So forgive me while I guess I read it, but I just want to make sure we hit some of the highlights. So Tina Shelvin Bingham is the Community Development Director for the Lafayette Habitat for Humanity, and she has also volunteered as the Executive Director for the McComb Veazay neighborhood for nearly 10 years. During this time, she has spearheaded many components of the neighborhood's revitalization plan, including implementing the Home Growers Community Farm, installing the Creole Face Cultural Products District, completing the McComb Veazay Community House, and organizing a host of other community projects. She is the project manager for Kresge Foundation's Fresh, Local, and Equitable Grant for the McComb Veazay neighborhood, as well as a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana Health Fellow. She received the Entrepreneurial American Leader Award from Partner for Livable Communities, and was recognized as the 2019 Outstanding Young Adult Trailblazer honoree by the Greater Southwest Louisiana Black Chamber of Commerce, and received the inaugural Ignite Leadership Award from Leadership Institute of Acadiana. Shelvin Bingham is a member of Leadership Lafayette Class 30 and the 2019 Leadership Louisiana class. She holds a master's degree in business administration from Ashford University in San Diego, California, and a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from Southern University and A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She began her career with Lafayette Consolidated Government as a GIS analyst planner, and later as a civil engineering specialist before leaving for her current position with Lafayette Habitat for Humanity. She remains passionate about advocating for healthy homes and improved quality of life for all residents of McComb Veazay neighborhood and the Acadiana area. We asked Tina to come today to talk about community engagement, what that really means, and how you can do it better. So with that, I'd love to just turn it over to Tina to start her presentation.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Carly. I made sure I gave her the long one so she can eat up all this time, but no. Thank you so much for that great introduction, and thanks for hosting this call and inviting me to be a part of it as well. And also special thanks to Alex and the work that's happening in the planning department at LCG that made the grant available for us to be able to create and rebrand our 12th Street corridor, which is where we're going to be using our funding for too. So plenty of great things are going to be happening in McComb Veazay as always, but going to be continuing to happen throughout 2022. But thank you guys. So I just wanted to say a real quick thank you for being here. I'm very excited to engage with you all, and I want to encourage you all to engage with me as well. So I am Tina Shelvin Bingham. I serve as the Executive Director for the McComb Veazay Neighborhood Project. But then I also wear multiple hats and serve multiple roles all across the community. One is the Community Development Director for the Lafayette Habitat for Humanities, but also serving a number of other boards across our community as well, just to make sure that more resources are getting into the communities where needed. So I want to encourage you guys in the chat, right? So we're going to use the chat. This is a session on engagement. So the last thing that I want to see is a bunch of like boxes with names on it. So if y'all can come off of your, if you're available, I know you're eating, it's okay if you're sticking some lettuce in your Model burger, just let us see your face, because this is about engagement, right? And we want to be able to engage in the process. But I also want to encourage you guys to comment in the chat, because I'm going to talk about a bunch of things that we worked on with our Kresge project, and some of the engagement opportunities that we did in that project. But I want to hear from you guys as well, as far as what have you done in community engagement and what is your experience in community engagement? So we have a quick pop-off question. So I said I wanted y'all to use the chat. I want you guys to use the reactions, your emojis, put some sunglasses on and just react in your picture, whatever you want to do. That is the way you're going to be engaging in this call. But I definitely want this to be a communal learning space, a way that we are all collaboratively working together. So I'm going to share some ideas that we did with McComb Veazay. But if there's anything that you would like to share, any ideas that you like to question, I want to encourage you to put that in the chat and just engage in that way. And Carly, if you can keep an eye on it, that'd be great too. I'm going to try my best to look at the chat.
Yes,
I can't promise you that I'll make it. So I just want to chat with you guys a little bit more about basically how our partnership, McComb Veazay Neighborhoods partnership with the Kresge Foundation's Fresh, Local, and Equitable grant program, as well as our partnership with FoodNet of Lafayette, which was run then by Julie LaFleur, but is now under Catholic Charities, how that partnership with McComb Veazay helped us create a refreshed plan for our neighborhood, so that we will be able to better engage within other plans that are happening within our community to start moving things forward. So like I said, a safe space for engagement for you guys to be a part of the chat. So I want to encourage you guys to be in this conversation as much as possible. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen with you guys. All right, so we're talking community engagement. So I wanted to start by, once again, creating a safe space, but just kind of defining what community engagement is and what we're going to be talking about kind of in this space. And the definition I'm going to use for community engagement is one that comes from the Tamarack Institute, which is the institute that's leading cutting edge work with community engagement, but also just getting great projects from the community in play. Oh, these emojis are funny. So the definition we're going to use today while we're talking about some of these principles that McComb Veazay used to apply is community engagement is the process of working collaboratively with and through groups of people affiliated by geographic proximity, special interests, or similar situations to address issues that are affecting their well-being for those that are all involved. So basically, if there's something that's happening, there's a project that's happening in the community, if you're writing a grant, if you need to collect feedback on an evaluation form, all of these things, the decisions that are being made within the rooms that we're all sitting in, affect the communities that we're currently working in. So what this definition to me says is that we want to make sure that you're bringing and considering all aspects of the community when you're looking at engagement of the community and what's needed, and actually being able to meet the community where they are as far as their perspective and engagement and where they are in the paradigm. So I said we started with the Kresge Fellowship. So many moons ago, McComb Veazay received the grant from the Kresge Foundation, which focused on, with 26 communities across the country, which focused on the intersections of health, education, and revitalization and cultural revitalization. So we wanted to be able to engage our community about more healthy options within our community, but also what would it take to create a cultural district and a forum and to really stand those things up for the community so that we can start healing some of the issues from our food deserts, creating business opportunities within the community, but then also creating opportunities for generational wealth increasing within the community. So these are just some of the bullet points and some of the things. We had some very big, lofty goals, and we knew what we wanted to accomplish within our community. And we knew that we had to start putting the steps in place and getting the right people in place to get those things happening. So we wanted to create a cultural learning academy, a communal space where people can come together to learn about entrepreneurship, starting a business. They can learn about any kind of arts that they like to do. If you like to sing, you want to paint, you want to tap dance, you want to be able to create those opportunities. Also homeownership. And also other opportunities to just engage in just different parts of the community. Just use your God-given talents to bring great things into the community. We also wanted to, like I said, to create the urban forum and the incubator process with that, so that we can start generating wealth, introducing more healthy produce into the community. And also collecting just a neighborhood heritage harvest, where we collect stories from the community about the families that lived in the community, where they came from, why did they settle here in our community. But all of those things needed a very robust community engagement plan, and a way that we engage with the community that's a little bit different, because we're in a community where we love Lafayette. And Lafayette, one thing that Lafayette loves to do is we're number one with creating a plan. We love creating plans. We like to be at the top of those lists. So at the top of the list is we create a lot of plans, right? Some of those plans are implemented and put in place, and some of those plans aren't. But what we did not want from the McComb Veazay project is for it to be one of those projects, those plans that just sits on the shelf. And we wanted to be able to show the community that we were listening and being responsive to what they needed and what they said that they wanted. So a quick question of, and we can popcorn this in the chat as well. Why do you need to engage with the community? If anybody have any questions of like, what are some reasons why you and your organization would communicate with or need to engage with residents from the community? In McComb Veazay's instance, we wrote a grant. So we wanted to be able to engage with the community to collect feedback about our plan. But also, what if you were just collecting feedback for a business opportunity or a business venture, or even hosting an event, and you wanted to make sure that people enjoyed the event, So how do you engage with people in that way in the community to make sure that they're staying active and plugging in to the work that you're doing? It's really important. It's always good to make sure, I told Carly earlier, engagement is not just about checking a box. Everybody likes to be able to check a box and say, we did it. But that's not what engagement is. Engagement is actively listening all the time and making sure that you demonstrate that understanding to the people that you're trying to affect change for. So some of the things that we had to learn during McComb Veazay is, how do you engage? How do we actively engage the community to make sure that the message is getting out, and that we are, and I'm missing a slide actually, it might be out of order. It is, just a little bit, we're gonna be okay. But basically, how do you engage? And the goal is really, we needed to understand our population and what group audience that we were targeting in our conversation and in our engagement. So when we looked at the McComb Veazay neighborhood, of course, we already had a boundary kind of set up, but then we established a new boundary for the cultural district and said, okay, these people within this cultural district boundary, within this jagged kind of black line that you guys see, who's here? What is the makeup of that community? How many elderly people are there? Are there a lot of families in that community? What's the income ranges? What are the job ranges? So what we did was we went in, we did a deep dive. As Carly said, in a past life, I was a GIS analyst with the city of Lafayette. So I was a data nerd and I dug deep into it. But what helped me with being able to dig into that data was I was able to really see how decisions could be influenced by being able to tell a story through a map, and being able to tell a story of what this community looks like. So we went through to this map, and this map actually, helped us be able to write a sufficient grant to be able to explain the need. But then also it helps us to define what do we need to do as engagement of our community, as far as, so when I say how you engage with your community, you, for the longest, we went door to door, right? My first project in McComb Veazay was painting a street mural. I knew nothing about marketing. I knew how to text because I had a phone. I knew how to email because I had email addresses, because I had an email address, but I didn't have a bunch of email addresses. I didn't have a way to connect with the people in my community. So it's like, well, how do we get started here? I'm gonna just create a flyer. And that flyer is gonna go up in like every grocery store that I can like put a pin on their community board for, and let's see what we get. Let's see who comes to the event. I'm gonna text all of my friends and family and let them know that they're to come out and just see what happens. Well, in that event, we really pushed it. Carly helped me as well. She had me write my first press release.
I don't even remember that, but I'm glad I did.
That you helped me write my first press release, and she even came to paint. You know, it was a very heartwarming thing when because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why these people are gonna like want to paint a magnolia in the middle of the street because I said that it was a great idea, right? But we worked collaboratively with the local artists to be able to help us design that mural in the middle of the street. And while we were laying it out, I was like, well, you know, we got about 5 or 10 people, you know, it's gonna be great. You know, this is the first effort, you know, we got to start somewhere. But we started laying out that mural and then turned the music on, and people just started having a great time painting. And then we looked up, and next thing we knew, there was 200 people standing around the mural saying, oh, y'all doing a good job. Where's the hot dogs? You know, the community really came out to engage in this beautiful space because they hadn't really seen people in the community doing things like this, but they hadn't seen it intentionally done. So they wanted to know what was going on and what was this group that was coming into the community that was bringing all of these, I say great things, but that day we got some really choice words from some of our neighbors that did not like the project and felt like we were wasting our time, money, and efforts. And they were very vocal about it to both us and the news, which is another way to engage the community as well. But also just making sure that positive messages was getting out to the community, that what we were doing was something that was beautiful, that was amazing for the community, and that it's gonna be uplifting, even if it's just paint on the road. It's something that uplifts the beautification. It's a heart tug. You can now have a directional something that says, you know what, when you get into my neighborhood on Magnolia, take a left at the Magnolia and you'll be in my house in like 5 minutes. You know, like there's a way to be able to really connect that mural and the projects that we're doing in the community. So we had to learn to engage, like I said. So we hosted a couple of meetings to get some planning going. We did some social media. McComb Veazay got a social media page. We also did like a little bit of snail mail. So I did do a few mailers for that initial project to get that going. But during the Kresge project, we enabled all of these different methods. We wanted to make sure that we were communicating with the community at whatever level we need to communicate with them on, to make sure that we got them at the table, either at the table to help with the decision making, at the table to help with the actual design of what this project would be looking like, or even just like boots on the ground, hands in the dirt, getting it done. We wanted to make sure we were engaging people where they were and how they wanted to be able to plug in. And the way you engage with people at the different platforms allowed them to do that. So a main thing about community engagement, as I mentioned before, is understanding your community. We made sure that we did a deep dive to know who was in our community. The top map here in the top corner from McComb Veazay kind of shows our historic neighborhoods, and understanding that context within the community is important in any community, especially when dealing with a historic one of ours, because there's a lot of historic homes there. There's other benefits that come into historic properties as well, such as state tax credits, also potential new market tax credits that could be coming into the property, into the community as well. So being aware of that makeup of what's happening in the community around housing, around the people, around the makeup of kids, just the education. I mean, we have, I think, one school officially in our cultural district, one on the periphery, but we have a good amount of parks. But one of the things that we learned was that we didn't have a grocery store. So that was one of the ways that we were able to engage the community and ask them, what, if you can have anything, if there was a magic wand that you can and get whatever you wanted, what would that be? And a lot of people rose to the top: a grocery store, a coffee shop, places for our youth, ways that we can, you know, just get engaged and just do some communal, just like hanging out with our neighbors, just because there's a safe space for us to be able to do it. So really getting to know the people in the community was really important for us to be able to engage them on the way that we did. But another way that we were able to engage with the community is that we built a robust list of resources and allies. So we made sure that we pulled everybody that had any kind of connection to this project from McComb Veazay into the project. So if it was a councilman, if it was someone from the city's representatives, we had partnerships with community development and planning. They were separate departments at the time, but now the same. But we had partnerships with community development and planning. We also had Parks and Rec representatives out there. We had regular community folks, people who from the realty industry that were interested in being a part of the conversation, all engaged in developing this community plan and speaking in to the community plan about as far as what's happening. We also make sure that we reached out to the people in McComb Veazay or from McComb Veazay who may have left the community to find out, one, why did you leave? And how can we get you to come back in some way, shape, or form? If not to leave, but how can we attract you to come back and just to visit and to hang out and to remember all of those good memories and feel goods that you had when you were here in the community? So it's multiple levels of engagement, multiple levels of feedback. And in the work that I do with Habitat, we work within the quality of life framework, and we use an evaluation method called MEAL. It's called monitoring. It stands for monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and learning, which means that you're going to monitor the situation. You're going to see what's happening out in the community. But then you also sit back and say, you know what? Let's examine this. Let's dig into it a little bit deeper and see what's here. What can we learn from? And then after you do that, you assess it a little bit more and then be like, you know what? We could shift these things this way, and maybe we can try something the other way. And then the L is the learning part. That's when you're implementing all of the things that you learned through the first two processes with the monitoring, the experimenting, the assessing. You're putting those learning pieces in place and making sure that the community is you're communicating to the community that you're actually implementing what you learned from them, and you gained a level of understanding of why they needed those things. So we try to implement those things throughout every course in engagement. We enlisted allies, like I said, we partnered with McComb Veazay. We hosted a number of cooking in the hoods. As I said earlier, we worked at the intersection of health and food and culture. So we wanted to make sure that we were bringing in some dynamic partners that could help with the food cooking, but also to explain it at the community level. So, and with the Cooking in Hood programs, we worked with the LSU Ag Center with Miss Tiffany Williams with the LSU Ag Center. And she came and she did cooking demonstrations for us. She explained to the community the importance of eating healthy, eating right, growing your own food, starting a business. We also had folks that came in to talk about housing. Other people came in to talk about financial literacy. So it was just a really great way for the community to gain resources, to meet some of the organizations that were already doing the great work within their community, but then also just to engage with their neighbors in a game of like some tic-tac-toe or some Connect Four, or we had some really mean Uno games. I'm just telling y'all, Uno and Jenga was some serious things at our Cooking in the Hoods. And this picture is actually one of those serious games. It's an encouragement really for you guys to participate, right? When you're doing this engagement, it's really easy for us to kind of step back because we're in the process of managing all of these moving parts and making sure that you're collecting feedback, making sure that the table was set up, making sure that there's water, making sure that the trash is picked up. Like there's so many things that can distract you when you're hosting an event, when you're doing a program, when you're trying to collect feedback, but it's really important for you guys to participate and create as many opportunities for the community to engage and participate in this whole process as possible. So what we tried to do with McComb Veazay is we did the cooking in the hoods, but we intentionally ingrained ourselves at some of those tables. So some of us were doing mocktails and serving parents mock cocktails in the gym while their kids drank smoothies. Some of us were fixing tacos. Some of us were playing Uno games and Jenga games and engaging with the kids, getting them to move around, getting the families talking about some of the things that they need, some of the resources that they needed. But then we also created opportunities for them to just engage and build more trust within the community as well, so that they know that, yeah, we want you to come and collect some feedback, but we want to have fun with you too. And we want this to be a fun thing for both of us and not something that we just have to, we're coming to check a box. We're not here to do that. We are here to make sure that you know that we are implementing what you want to see, and we're bringing activities and opportunities that you'd like to see as well. So we did the Cooking in the Hoods with McComb Veazay. We hosted a couple of Better Block projects, which are outdoor kind of charrettes for the community that demonstrates what a space could potentially look like if a little bit of TLC and a little bit of love came together, or the right partners came together to make that space amazing. So we did that at those at Surrey Street and 12th Street, where we painted a mural on the side of Mr. Blake's, he's not Kirk's, Mr. Blake's, Kirk Shanita Butcher's building, where we have 11 people from the community who are recognized as champions in education and civil rights, and just being an all-star in the community. We are recognized on our Legends wall on the corner of Surrey and 12th Street. And then we also did another on Simcoe Street, where we did a little bit of a small road diet and added a bus stop shelter. And Carly and some of her friends came and helped us clean a vacant lot that was adjudicated on that street too. And it really opened things up. We were able to engage with the residents. We were able to engage with some of the kids from up and down the street. We found the snowball stand, not the snowball stand, what's the man? The iceberg man, or the cold cup man, right? We found the cold cup man. He came and bought us an ice chest of cold cups. Everybody was running around with a bunch of red and blue lips. It was just a really great event. We got to meet some of the adjacent neighbors who didn't know that there was a lot of activity and momentum happening around redevelopment and revitalization in the area and wanted to get involved. So it was a great way to really just cause a ruckus, plant a seed right there in the middle of the community, cause some noise and make people open their doors and ask what's going on. And I need to go and find out what's going on. And a lot of that has been really organic because people aren't used to things like this happening. Usually in our community, things happen to our community and not of our community. And it was really important for them to know that this is coming of the community for the community. And as I said before, always try to create opportunities for feedback. This event was actually in partnership with Skyra Rito when she was with the mayor president's office with Project Front Yard. But we actually, at our community forum, that where we grow okra, purple hull peas, and all the good things that people eat in our community, we wanted to introduce the kids to eating zucchini, right? Because we very early on learned that a lot of people in our community did not touch squash. They didn't know how to eat the squash. They didn't know how to cook the squash. So it was a great opportunity for us to engage the community with some recipes and showing them how to cook the squash, what they can do at home, different things that they can try. And in this demonstration, we actually did it at Girard Park, where they made on the spot zucchini bread, which was delicious. And the kids gobbled it up. It was really great to see the kids and the families really getting ingrained and getting in that dough and making sure that it was all mixed properly, and then getting to taste the fruits of their labor by eating that fresh zucchini that came from the farm that was grown in the community that many of them grew up and live in. And also, it's always great to make sure that you make your stakeholders the star, right? Like it's not about you. It's not about any of us. We are coming into these communities to engage, to learn, to be able to help grow. But we want to make sure that they know that we are celebrating them. So our stakeholders could be anybody. It can be the guy off the street, or it can be an ally that you brought in. But it's always important they know how important they are to this process. So I always say, I'm always very animated, right? But it's really important for people to know that you just love them and you want to love them for no reason. And you just want to thank them, and you're thankful that they've even given you the time to be here, to be a part of this process and to share and learn with you. So always make your stakeholders a part of the process, make them the stars of whatever we're doing. And then, like I said, make it easier to participate. We did this really quickly. I took a long sheet of paper and put it on the board, and I wrote a prompt. And I asked the kids to draw, because kids want to draw anyway. If you give them a pen, or if they see access to a pen, they want to draw on anything. I know my nieces and nephews love the microphone. So whenever they see me with a microphone, they want to play with it. And we know we don't want to be hearing a bunch of screaming to some bad music over the phone. So we want to give them and redirect their energies to somewhere where we know that it could be used and utilized. So we asked the kids to draw a picture of something that they don't see in their neighborhood was one of the prompts. So in that picture, we got pictures of trees. We got a swing set, jungle gym. We got a house, like a dream house. Their dream house is not in the neighborhood. And I was like, well, what is that dream house and how can we make that happen? So when kids in community and family participate in things like this, it helps bubble up different ideas that you can bring to light within your project and within your plan. And it's not something that you have to go and collect a bunch of information on. This is really just a graphic image that you can look at. But it was really awesome to be able to get the kids playing with those things and just dreaming about what they can see and engaging with them on their level and at the level in which that they needed to be engaged. But it's always important to make it easier for people to be able to participate. We do that here at McComb Veazay a lot by creating feedback loops. So ways that people can always provide feedback, even if you're not speaking directly to me, we try to listen, actively listen and understand what people are talking about, where they're coming from within the community by just having conversation. But then we also ask them to fill out feedback cards, and that slide actually didn't make it on, I apologize. But we ask them to fill out feedback cards where every event, whether it's a Cooking in the Hood, whether it's a pop-up or a Fresh Films event, we ask people to give us a feedback on what's happening in the space, right? We play a game called the placemaking game. And in the placemaking game, it asks you questions of, you know, the magic wand question of if you had a magic wand, you can do anything, what would you do? Or what are some like strengths in your community? What are some weaknesses in your community? Where are there opportunities for us to improve? And it asks you to rate things. It's a whole little card situation, but there's always opportunities for you guys to get feedback. But then also we like to reward you as well. So when you give us the feedback, you enter into opportunities to win other prizes like gaiters, t-shirts, gift cards, kind of whatever we have in the building. And we have some really great things, but we always try to provide an opportunity for people to provide as much feedback to us as possible, even if it's not solicited. Unsolicited feedback is also welcome within the community. We just take a note of it, even if it's not something that's written on a card. We just make sure we take a note of how those people chose to engage with us. Because like I said, everybody doesn't engage the same way. Everyone is not going to respond to a text. Everyone is not on social media. Everyone is not following the news stations or reading a newspaper. So we have to be able to meet people where they are and engage them where they are as well. So, and this is a very important, and this is kind of an example of, you know, being an active listener and demonstrate that you understood what people are saying. So one of the things that we heard during our the first painting of the mural and the second painting of the mural was that, what is going on with this house? So this house right here on the top of the screen, this young gentleman, I wish I could put the video up there. He was actually dancing in front of the house. He had like a whole concert in front of the house. But this house actually is what the community house looked like just before we actually fixed it. And the community house, this building that I'm sitting in currently at 419 12th Street on the corner of 12th and South Magnolia, came to be because of a comment that was made by people in the community about why is there always tires on that? Why is there tires on that porch? They don't fix tires over there. It's a house, right? There's all these like blighted and like these permit signs. There's all these like which is the liens. Everything was on there. In environmental everything. It was just a hazard, right? And nobody was really doing anything with the house. So it really sparked us to start having a conversation with the folks in planning and saying, you know, what can we do with this house? How can we get this back into commerce? How can we start moving on it? And this property was adjudicated through the adjudication process because of old tax liens, just delinquent taxes and other things that were on the property. So we work with the City of Lafayette to get possession of the property and through our partnership with the Lafayette Habitat for Humanities. And we converted it into the community house, which serves as a community resource center in the McComb Veazay neighborhood. That's not just for the McComb Veazay neighborhood. It's open to the full community to come in and learn with us as we kind of, you know, bump along our journey of becoming, you know, the stewards of the community that we're trying to do. So we want to encourage it. We always open up any kind of learning opportunity, whether it's learning how to write grants, whether it's learning how to start your business, whether it's learning about home ownership or financial literacy. All those opportunities are always open to everyone in the community to come and learn with us so that we can engage with each other and figure out how we can all work together to move the community forward. So when I say actively listen, we actively heard that these people were saying, it was something that kind of kept radiating as well. I think Johnny within the staff had kind of identified this property before. We just kind of were like, But then when you're sitting in front of the building and you're painting a beautiful mural about 100 feet from a building full of tires and boarded up and overgrown with trees, you got to do something about that. Like, you can't just leave just ugliness next to beauty. You know, you want to make sure that you're bringing some beauty into the community as well. So we actively listen to the community. We went through this whole charrette process with the folks at UL, with the planning department, the architecture students at UL, the folks at Lafayette Habitat for Humanity, and our planning partners all came together to say, hey, community, what would you like to see? And of course, we put out 3 different options, all of varying cost and price, and the community picked the most expensive. So that's what we had to do to raise the money to get the most expensive building. But it was the most expensive building, but it has been the most fulfilling building as well, because now we have a beautiful long porch that people in our community can come and sit and hang out with us on, and say many of them do. I'm just surprised now that no one has walked in on me just yet during this call. Fingers crossed, no jinx. But it created a great way for us to continue to engage with the community. People continuously stop here and it's like, hey, what's going on here? Is there anything that I can do to help? Or can you help me with X, Y, Z? And it allows us really to direct them to where they need to be within the spectrum of assistance. So we can send them to 311. We can partner them with other partners like United Way or other folks that may be able to assist them with whatever their issue is. So it's really important that as we're out there engaging people in the community, that we make sure that we demonstrate that we're listening and that we're understanding the plight of the community, but also what they want to see, and making sure those things come to fruition. And I think that's it, Carly.
That was awesome. So
any questions?
Yeah, I mean, I know I wrote down a few questions, but I should go last. Does anybody have questions? Anybody have questions for Tina? And you can take yourself off mute, or you can put it in the chat, but I think we're a small enough group that you can take yourself off mute if you want. Okay, while we wait for a couple people, Tina, I'm gonna ask a couple questions because I wrote down a couple things as you were talking. So I wanted you to just talk about that very first mural. So you go out and you paint your very first mural in the street, and you know, some people aren't happy, right? And how did you deal with that for the first time? And you probably learned a lot. You might deal with it differently today, right? And how did you not get discouraged? I mean, was your first time out, you thought you're doing this, great thing that everybody was going to love, and I'm sure it taught you a big lesson the very first time you went to do a community project. So I just kind of maybe do the human side of how you felt when the first person was like, we don't want this, we don't like this.
I internalized that one a little bit because I was like, I don't understand, what's going on? This is a great project. But it also helped me. So I was kind of surprised at first that people were they didn't want it. They didn't see the value in it. But then I had to kind of remember that, the community that we are working in the McComb Veazay neighborhood, and many of the communities on the north side of Lafayette have now received a certain level of attention from outside groups that just want to come in and do things like what we just did. So it was kind of a learning curve for all of us that there was a group here in the community that really wanted to see some change happen and wanted to put, some money behind not some money, but, really put some action behind what we were proposing to do within the community. So it was a little bit of off-putting, just a little bit when we found out that, because it was in a news article, and I'm like, how do you get that off of KATC? I can't get that off of KATC, my first project. But I was like, you know what? Like a duck, Tina, you got to let some things roll up, because everyone is not going to be for your project. And that's really important to recognize, is that everyone in the community, even if it's a well-meaning project, if it's the best project in the world, everyone is not going to always co-sign because you think it's a great opportunity. But it's also an opportunity to educate as well, because what happened with some of those gentlemen and women who expressed concern and issues was we were able to educate them about what the organization was doing, why this event was important, that it was an activation event, that it wasn't, we're not coming in to fix all of the world's problems, but we definitely wanted to be able to start engaging the community where they were and get our group, which we had been meeting in downtown in the government buildings for years, get them out of Rosa Parks, get them out of those buildings and intentionally into the community so that people can see and put a face to the group that's doing the work in the community.
That's awesome.
Excuse me,
So you
Carly.
said, what's that? Who?
That's
Somebody-
Rochelle.
Yeah, go for it, Rochelle.
Kind of piggybacking off of the mural that we did on Magnolia. It started out with maybe 5 people, really. And as the day progressed on, more and more people from the community came out. Excuse me. More and more people from the community came out. And I don't know if Tina has it, but we took a picture of the mural with everyone that engaged in painting the mural. And we had over 75 people. It was amazing. For the people that said, ooh, to see all the people that came out to help and to engage in the project.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things, I guess one of the questions that I was going to ask is, it is, do you think Tina and Rochelle, like when you guys started and did that first project, did people identify you already as part of the neighborhood, or did they almost identify you as like an outsider, even though, you had a lot of ties and were from the neighborhood, right?
I think people identified me definitely as an outsider. I tell people I belong to all of the North Side, right? So my mom's family spent a lot of time and grew up in the Fightonville, Truman, Washington Heights area. My dad in the McComb area. So my real connection was my dad. And Rachel and I would complain a lot, honestly, because I was the youngest and still the youngest person in this group that was working. So I felt like people didn't really know me. And they knew my name. Once they met me and heard my maiden name, they were like, oh, a Shelvin? I know a few Shelvins. And then it starts kind of spiraling into, we might be cousins. So that was the other part, is that once people started recognizing who I was, I met a cousin on every other block. But at first, when I first started, people did not know me. So I had to kind of get over a learning curve, not only for them, but for myself as well, as far as how do I engage people who aren't familiar with me to help them feel comfortable and to build the trust that's needed for them to want to confide in me as well. And Rachel is just a knowledge. She knows everybody and everybody's mama from the neighborhood. So
I'm homegrown, girl.
Okay, they probably stopped by because they saw her on the corner waving at them,
Right.
So it was very beneficial to have those people who already have that lived experience and have that knowledge of the community and have that rapport. But for me, it was a little bit difficult because I didn't have it outright. I had to kind of prove my stripes a little bit that I did have a connection to the community. But even if you didn't have like if you're not related to people in the community and not from the neighborhood, there's still a way for you to engage with the neighborhood. It's all about building that trust and building the relationships, and relationships are very key in building community engagement.
And that's kind of why I asked this question, because some of the folks on the call are maybe, they may not be from the neighborhood or from the community that they do a lot of work in. And so, kind of hearing that your first experience, you didn't necessarily feel like an insider. And I'm sure today now most people look at you and they're like, oh, Tina's part of the neighborhood, So kind of saying like, really, you guys had to go in and do the hard work that earned you you listened and you did all the engagement strategies, and that's how you earned your credibility. So.
And we were responsive. So the whole point of us doing all of this engagement initially was to refresh our plan. And to let people know that first to let people know that there was a plan, right? There was a plan created for the community, but then also to refresh the plan to make sure that it was more reflective of what they wanted to see. And then once we found out what they wanted to see, and it was something that was viable for the plan, is making those parts happen. So making those different parts of the project happen. So having the community house in place, creating the pocket park on 14th and South Magnolia, doing other mural projects around the community. It's just different ways that we're showing the community that we're responding to what they like to see happening in the community, but we still need a little bit more work. It still need a little bit more help. We just still need a little bit more.
Oh yeah, the work is never done. The work is never done. Okay, I'm going to see if anybody has questions, and I do definitely have at least one more, maybe two more. But I don't. If anyone else on the call has questions, I'd love to answer those first. Okay, my second one is like I'm guessing that a lot of folks on the call, knowing some of the folks that we work with on this call, often, you know, probably may have listened to your presentation with some level of, you know, I'll say like maybe admiration, but also maybe like jealousy, because a lot of the folks on this call may work at a bigger, they're not in one neighborhood, right? They're working through either all of Acadiana or all of Lafayette, or, you know, they're not as focused on one neighborhood and engaging one neighborhood. Can you talk a little bit about how your concepts, you know, even though it may be a little bit harder at a bigger scale, but how some of your concepts translate to something bigger than a neighborhood?
Oh, well, everything that we've done in McComb Veazay is scalable, right? And it's something that it can be a small or a large event to be able to gather feedback. And the blessing I'll say about working in a smaller neighborhood is that you can build those tighter relationships, those closer knit people to be able to advance the plan. But when you're working in like a larger setting, it's hard to kind of get those champions at the table sometimes. So I think for me, it was finding those champions that across the board, because I work with other communities as well, with helping them with engagement opportunities and other projects. So I think it's finding those champions that could bring something new, right? So we did Cooking in the Hoods, we did fresh films, but those things may not work in another community, but it's a way to engage. It's a way to get the community out and to build a sense of community. The goal is to build that, whether it's a neighborhood, whether it's the city of Lafayette, whether it's the planning office or CGI. I'm sorry, I'm picking on you, Carly. I feel like because those are all like checking your boxes. But I mean, it really just depends. It doesn't depend on anything but you and your want to really make it happen. But it's all about building that relationship and building a sense of community with whomever is the stakeholders that are going to be a part of your projects.
Great. Other questions for Tina?
Rachel has I'm sorry. Rachel has a comment in the chat. She says, have you had to do anything to re-engage the community? What are some things that have worked? Oh, girl. So we are actually in the process now of that re-engagement. As many people, so in 2019, 2020, McComb Veazay was on a full alert. We had a lot of momentum going with establishing and putting our plan in place. And then as many people, COVID happened and it kind of shut everything down. It was like a hard stop. There was no diffusing of anything. So we lost a little bit of momentum as far as how we engaged, because we had to change the way we engaged. So what we did was we pivoted to more outdoor engagements, more outdoor opportunities to give feedback. With COVID, a lot of our events before had individual feedback stations where people can go and take a marker and just draw and write whatever they wanted to write. But this year we localized it basically and created those feedback cards so that people can fill out the card and be able to get us feedback that way without us having to do so much in person and too close engagement. We had to stay out 6 feet away. Everything stays social distance. disinfectant. So we adjusted a little bit during COVID. And now that we're engaging back into the community, this weekend is actually going to be our first community engagement event. We're going to be hosting Party Gras, which is McComb Veazay's neighborhood's Mardi Gras event, because Mardi Gras starts in our community, and we've always had such a robust Indian life and just Mardi Gras family, you know, festivity life. We wanted to bring that back into the McComb Veazay area and engage our residents around, you know, just enjoying it and having a safe place to be for Mardi Gras, where you can come and listen to music. We're going to turn the porch into a sound stage. It's going to be decorated like a float in a couple of days, but we're going to just have a great time and just bring the community out with some of the Mardi Gras Indians. We're going to have some local vendors, and then opportunities once again for the community to provide feedback to us around I-49, around some of the work that we're doing for the 12th Street project. So it's kind of telling us, yeah, I hate that. Yeah, I like that flag. No, I hate this flag. Kind of like really getting that neighborhood feedback back. So we're in the process now of re-engaging the community this year, and we're kicking it off this weekend in a big way with Party Gras.
Awesome. And what day is Party Gras?
Party Gras is the Sunday, February 27th. It's going to be from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it's open to nonprofits as well. So if anybody on the call is interested in coming and setting up a table and engaging in the community and just letting the community know what kind of services or resources that you're bringing to the table, you're all welcome to come and set up a table. We'll create a space for you.
Awesome. Awesome.
And thank you, Melinda, for correcting my email address. I'm bad at it.
And yes, thanks to Habitat, to Melinda and Tequila for sharing Tina today, and for, you know, all the work that you guys do. I think too, you know, if you get a chance on Sunday, and if you haven't been to the McComb Veazay Community House, like, drive by and go to the next event where it's open and take a look. It's really amazing the work they did and the kind of center of gravity it's provided in that neighborhood. I mean, 12th Street was already like kind of the spine of that area, and now with that house there, it's just even more. And it's such, you know, that was a real labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations again. And I know, you know, I encourage everybody on the call to go check it out, because it's pretty awesome. So
awesome. We encourage and welcome.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah. Well, we have just a couple minutes left, and I just want to thank
Clarice had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm just interested in, I know I'm familiar with adjudication. I mean, I know what it means, but I don't know how to go about finding properties. I'm Focus Clubhouse. We assist adults living with mental illness. We are in a brick and mortar space now, but we need a much larger, better, more, just to fit our model better. And I've been told there's lease land available, and how to find that, and how to find adjudicated properties. I've been knocking my head up against a brick wall, and I am so impressed with your presentation that I would love to pick your brain if you wouldn't mind having a cup of coffee with me.
Oh, no. I would love to have coffee with you sometime. And I might bring Melinda with me. She's here here on my screen, but I bring Melinda with me, and we can chat a little bit more about adjudicated properties. But it's really, I think the city put out a map, actually a link, and I'm not sure if it's publicly known, but there is a link that the city shared where they have a listing of all of the adjudicated properties that's available. But it's a snapshot in time. It's not like the current running list, but it's definitely from 2 weeks, a month, or however long ago they snapped it. But I would definitely recommend, like, it doesn't give you a full list of like all of the adjudicated properties on one sheet of paper. But if you go to the tax assessor's website and you kind of just peruse a little bit, you'll be able to identify some of the adjudicated properties there. You just have to do a little bit of work. The good thing is that a lot of them are located on the north side of town, so you don't have to look too far. So
And
you'll find an adjudicated lot.
Clarice, I can connect you also with the planning office, and they can assist. If you shoot me an email, or I'll try to write myself a note and do that, because they can assist a little bit and share with you the resources and the process. So
yeah, I don't mind shooting you an email, Carly, and I really would like to help. We are putting on, as most everybody that was there yesterday, a forum called Focus Forum. Tina, just for your information, it's time to talk about mental illness. And, you know, all of the people, not all of the people that are on the side of the road and homeless have a mental illness, but a good majority of them do. And I'm trying to figure out a way to reach out to them, reach out to all of the social workers. It's almost like I'm poison. So I need your help, ma'am, is what I'm asking for.
Okay, well, I'd love to help in any way that we can. Definitely would like to sit down and chat with you and see how we can try to help, you know, make that come to life for you guys. We definitely want to see you guys located. I'm not sure what your mission is, so I'd definitely like to learn more about what you guys are doing with your program, and see how maybe you might be able to partner with us a little bit more in our learning cohorts in the quality of life spectrum with Habitat, and it might be a good fit to work with you guys. So very excited about that.
The quality of life is what we're trying to give back to those living with a mental illness. Just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean you have to sit at home around no one and do nothing. You know, you can get back into your community with dignity and purpose. You just have to get there. We're not any clinical, but we take the place because most of the appointments are 2 and 3 months apart, you know, psych doctors and even counselors. So what do they do in the meantime? So, but I'll shoot you an email the first of next week, and we'll correspond by email for about a week and see if we can set up a date. I am going out of town for family emergencies, and so I won't be here next week, but we'll correspond by email. And thank you. I didn't mean to take up so much time, Carly.
That's all right. So those of you that have been on these types of calls with me before know that I like to keep it on time. So we have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to share. Can I share my screen, Tina? Is it going to let me take it from you? Okay. Emma and I will work on getting an email out either later today or probably tomorrow. But many of you who have been PACT partner grantees before know that our PACT applications are officially released today. And so I'm going to put this link in the chat, and I will also, it is also available for you on the website with both our RFP, which was called the application guide, and then the application, which is done online. So big thanks to Emma for getting this up and running. And so you can read over the application guide. For those of you that are familiar with, because we don't have a lot of time today, for those of you that are familiar, we do grant in the education earnings essentials, as well as last year we added community leadership as a fourth category for those overarching efforts that we believe benefit the community as a whole. And really, those of you that have been participating with our grant process for a while, you won't find a lot of changes from previous years, with a couple of minor exceptions. Working with United Way Worldwide, we are going to start to ask very direct questions about racial equity and the initiatives that your program that you apply for funding for seeks to close the racial equity gap. And certainly, so you'll find those questions in the application this year. And if you have any questions about that or want to discuss it in any detail as you work on submitting your response, please reach out to me. Happy to visit with you, or someone on our team will visit with you. But that's the big change that you'll find from previous years, previous applications. Also, just a last brief announcement before I say thank you is also when we circulate this link, we're also going to circulate the nonprofit survey, which we've talked about for a few months about putting together and working with our advisory committee. We have it. It will take probably less than 10 minutes to complete. And our goal is to really understand what types of support you all need as nonprofit professionals, as board members, as volunteers. It shouldn't take you very long, and it will help us drive particularly what topics we cover at events like this, Nonprofit Meetups, as well as any other additional nonprofit programming that we may put together. So I'll circulate an email after this in the next day or two, 48 hours, that will include a link to that, as well as a link to our PACT grants. And And then finally, as we announced, those of you that were able to join us in December, we're also working with AOC to give nonprofits the opportunity to promote their message through AOC. So we may be able to release that at the same time. So be on the lookout for a recap email. If you did not get my reminder email this morning, I'm just going to drop my email in the chat one more time. Send me an email so I can make sure to have your correct email. We've been doing some communication cleanup. And so I am happy to just double or triple check that you are on our list so we don't fail to communicate with you. So it's 1 o'clock. So I will make my thank you very, very, very brief. Tina, that was fantastic. I speak for all of us, all the names on the screen when I say thank you. And it was awesome. You are such a treasure to our community and doing such great work. And like, it feels like you probably just got started. Like you've got so much more ahead. So thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
All right. And everyone have a great, I forget what day we're at. I think we're at Wednesday. So have a great Wednesday and have a great Mardi Gras and be safe and go out and visit Tina on Sunday. All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you so much for coming.